I am so stinking excited. One of the things that has been a game changer in my growing space has had an upgrade, and I'm gonna tell you all about it. Hi, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplantygoodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. So yes, the big thing that has been such a game changer in my space in the last year, and I did a video about this a while back and I'll link it at the top there, was my RainPoint Automatic Watering System. And it has come in trumps. I know a lot of you that watch my channel quite a bit have seen me kind of rant and rave about it because it's the one thing that makes sure that all of my orchids that are mounted up at the top of my kind of wall are getting watered. I don't have to bring every single one of those down. It also meant that it was super easy for me to care for those plants whilst I was away. So if somebody was taking care of my plants, I didn't have to worry about those because I already had them on a schedule and I can kind of connect to it and do everything that I needed to do, and I can also do it manually. Now, the wonderful people at RainPoint have sent me the newest version of their waterer. They reached out and they said, look, we know that you liked it. We know that your audience liked the previous one. We've got a new one out. Here it is. What do you think? Would you like to kind of have a play around with this? We can send you one to review. So this was in kind of full transparency. This was gifted to me in order for me to test it out and tell you all what I thought of it. And yeah, this is going to be exciting because they've added something truly unique to the product. And I've got the product in a box here. So nice and small for when it arrives. I think the previous box was a bit larger, so this is a lot more compact at this stage. I have kind of taken certain bits out because I needed to charge it before I did this video. But yeah, I want to show you some of that new technology. So the big new technology that I've added to this, and I'm just like, this is so cool. It's such a game changer because anybody that has ever had an automatic watering system will know the challenge of this kind of sometimes will bring up, and it is the cycle and soak technology. And it kind of is what it sounds like. It's so cool, and you'll understand why in just a second. And I think the way that I'm going to split up this video is me showing you the product in use, so you can see what it does and see if it's something that you're particularly interested in. And I'll then follow up. The next section on the video will be me putting it together. So if you do decide to go for this, at least you can kind of watch my video for some quick instructions as to how to get everything connected. It's very similar to the previous RainPoint system that I had. So nice and simple. I've done this once before. It should be relatively straightforward, and this company doesn't really ever disappoint to make it a bit easier. So without further ado, let's see the product in action. Okay, and I've scooted you down now to show you the product in action. It's very cool. So obviously, some of the most interesting things about this product, which applies to any kind of automatic watering system, is that if you go on holiday quite frequently or even infrequently, most people go on holiday at some point or another, or you're really busy, which is what I found with a lot of my orchids and trying to bring them down all the time, this is going to be a bit of a lifesaver basically. So I've connected the device. I'll show you the device now, and the next section after this will show you how I set everything up. That is the device in a vessel of water, because you know Tupperware is when you start getting serious with houseplants, and it's got the two watering spikes. And what I've got in front of me is just a small container of dry houseplant soil mix and dry sphagnum moss. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put both of the watering spikes in here. The one thing I will caution in this video, which is obviously just for display purposes, if you are going to be doing all of the plants that you can with this, and you can go up to 20 plants and it will do kind of even watering against all of it because of the cycle and soak technology, there's going to be less pressure if you're doing it for 20 plants versus the 2 plants that I'm doing. And hopefully that is coming up in the screen. I've got a little drip tray at the bottom because obviously there's no actual plant in these at the moment, and they are clear pots for a reason. The programming on the actual device is super easy. You can kind of do minutes, days, months in advance. You can pause or delay watering as well. So I'll give you kind of a real world example. Say you have this on just an automatic watering system because you are too busy. Day-to-day life gets a bit much and you want to have an automatic watering system. So you need to think of watering less plants. There's obviously going to be a difference in the seasons. So you're going to want to maybe delay or change, and you can do that really easily from the actual device itself. The watering for the winter months versus the summer months where you might want it a bit more frequently. Summer months, and not just the summer months, is where the cycle and soak technology is really going to come in key, because in the summer months you tend to go bone dry sometimes with some of your soil media, and standard automatic watering systems will just flush or just run the water for however long you've got it solidly. And we all know that if the soil is dry, and even more so the sphagnum moss is dry, that's all going to bead off and it's not really going to soak in. Some of it is going to go in, but not all of it. So that's why the cycle and soak is kind of really cool, and why I'm so excited about this, because this is just that, ooh, this is going to be game changer. So let me start the device and put it on a 2-minute run. And that's the other thing you need to remember is, in order to use the cycle and soak technology, you need to put it on a minimum of 2 minutes or more in order to do it. And the way that it will run it is you can do it so that it runs it for 2 minutes with 5-minute interval. I think if you go above a certain number of minutes as well, you can go do a 10-minute interval. But so essentially what that means is it runs, say we do it for 2 minutes, which is what I'm going to do now. It runs for a minute, and then it pauses for 5 minutes. It runs again for a minute. So a total of 2 minutes, 1 minute, 5-minute pause, 1 minute at the end, which means that it gives the water time to absorb and then waters more to make sure that everything is kind of soaked as much as you need it to be without it going kind of just flushing off over it because it's too dry. And ultimately this will save you some water as well, because I'll give you an example with some of the automatic watering systems that I do. I need to run them for a bit longer, which means using more water, because I know that some of that is going to get lost because the media might be dry and I need to kind of adjust for that and water for a bit longer, kind of wasting water. This way around, you save some water as well, because, and I think if I'm not mistaken from their product itself, it says that you can save up to 30% water, which is great. Anything we can do to kind of save water is a good thing. I come from a kind of drought-riddled country where water is very precious. So anything we can do to that is key. So let me get this set up and running with a 2-minute watering cycle, which would be split, as I said, 1 minute, 5-minute pause, and then 1 minute again at the end. Okay, so I've set it up now. It is currently watering the plants, or the soil in this case, and I will show you really quickly. You might be able to see some of that dripping, and I'll show you what the actual soil media is going to look like after this 1 minute. Same thing with the sphagnum moss, just to kind of prove the point. Obviously, I've got a tray underneath it to capture all of that excess moisture that's going to be happening. What I would suggest is, if you're going away and you want to do something like this, just maybe put some pot feet at the bottom of your pots, or somebody actually mentioned to me on one of my other videos is get one of the tops from, like, say, a soft drink, you know, the plastic tops, and put them underneath them, and they're kind of free and recycled pot feet. And at the moment it is soaking up. It's done. It's finished the 1 minute kind of mark at that point. And let me show you both of these things before the 5 minutes are up, and I might kind of speed it up for a moment and have a look at that. So the sphagnum moss is still relatively dry. It's got some moisture on there, but nothing too major. And with the soil media, let me show you that really quickly as well. You can kind of see there is some moisture that's happening at the bottom, but the top bit is still quite dry. Obviously, these are just being used as examples for the time being, but you understand what I mean by the fact that this is going to be something that is going to be revolutionary in the way that it's actually going to be able to give both of that media time to soak up what they need to soak up. And I'll say it now whilst we're waiting for the 5 minutes to kind of elapse. Goes without saying. I know somebody mentioned it in the first video that I did for the first product, and it was a game changer because obviously everybody knows that moistening something like a moss pole does take a long time. You need to put those water bottles on, wait for it to drip, and eventually go down. This is something that you could easily use, put it at the top of your moss poles, and because it's got that cycle and soak technology, it will water these things beautifully. And I know a lot of people do have moss poles. I also know a lot of people on my channel don't like moss poles, but this also works for regular kind of watering of your plants. You don't need to have a moss pole. For the people that do have moss poles, this is nice and simple. Instead of remembering to fill up that water bottle, each one of those tiny little water bottles, to put them upside down at the top and do it that way, you could just have a large container. I've got like a relatively small one here for kind of display purposes, but there is no limit to how big that container could be. You could have a bucket basically whilst I splash water on me. But really useful for something like your moss poles. Ooh, and I think it's about to start. I'm fast forwarding or like chopping out certain bits because otherwise you're going to sit here watching me talk for like 5 minutes solid. But it's getting ready to restart now, which is very exciting. Sorry. I'm easily pleased. Give me technology and give me technology that works with plants and I'm anybody's. But even more so if it works as well. Like this is something that I could easily give to somebody like my mum who isn't very technology kind of focused. It's nice and easy. You can program it. Unlike the other one, which is on your phone, this one you can do everything on the device. It's nice and simple buttons so you can kind of click through. It's nice big display as well that you can kind of see it running through. And I forgot to mention as well, there's a kind of timer that comes up and the watering has recommenced now. So now it's going through its second cycle essentially. So this is where we're going to make sure that everything is watered as much as possible and making sure that it is absorbing rather than just running off. The good thing as well that I forgot to mention, sorry, the actual device is down here, is that at this stage, there's a little countdown timer as well. So it's just like 50 minutes, 50 seconds, 49 seconds, 48 seconds is really cool. Sorry. I'm so easily pleased. People that watch me know this already. But it's really cool. It's got a decent kind of way of dripping through. And as I said, you can kind of set this for as long as you need it to be. I'm kind of doing this at the bare minimum, which is the 2-minute mark, just so I can kind of see how it works with the cycle and soak technology. And I can already see that the soil is where it needs to be and the sphagnum moss is also just the right level of dampness as well. Because for anybody who's been dealing with sphagnum moss for a while will know that if it's bone dry, you can go from bone dry to sapping wet and like dripping wet, which is not what you want for your plants. But that happy medium can be a bit tricky to find. Let me just double check. And we have completed the watering. I could also see here that it's completed the watering. And yes, this is now a properly watered, it's obviously sitting in a bit of the water at the bottom because I don't have feet on this at the moment, but hopefully you're seeing that the soil is fully damp all the way through without it being sapping. And I can tell you just by the weight of it, it is fully watered. Same thing, and this is the big one, same thing with the sphagnum moss. It is just got enough moisture that it means that the sphagnum moss, and I'm actually touching it to see, the sphagnum moss is as wet as it needs to be without it being sapping wet or bone dry. And that is a game changer, both for the soil, but even more so for something like sphagnum moss. Things a lot of us are growing, say, if we're propagating plants or little anthurium seedlings or anything like that, a lot of the times it might be sphagnum moss with perlite, all of these things, and they can be much more challenging to automate. And they're the ones that genuinely need more frequent watering potentially because they're kind of growing quite rapidly at that point. So you want to make sure that that is watering. I am sold on this. I'm sold. I am so looking forward to switching this round with my automatic watering system that I have now for my orchids, utilizing that to water something else in my space. This is very cool. I don't think I've seen anybody else do this. I might be wrong, but very, 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 very cool. And I should have mentioned, actually, I'll probably put it at the beginning of the video if you want. The team at RainPoint were very lovely, and they've offered a 25% discount to any of my viewers that want to purchase this product. So I'll put the code up here. I'll put it down below, including kind of links to their website and their social media. Anybody that wants to go and check out them as a company, really, really cool. And yeah, not just a great product, but a really, really lovely company that I've been dealing with for quite some time now. In my experience, they've been super helpful and kind of accommodating. And I know somebody might be like, oh, but you're an influencer. But I would imagine they'd be the same with most people. I know a couple of people that, that at least have told me that they bought it from my previous video. They've had good experiences as well. So, and you know, I generally don't talk about products on here that I don't like. So not very often that I do these types of videos. I must like the product. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Hopefully you've enjoyed. Tell me your thoughts. But actually, before I let you go, it's because the way that I filmed this, I filmed the setup first and then filmed this second, but you're seeing this first and the setup to kind of see kind of if that's something that you want to do, how you would set this up. So yes, over to the setup. Okay, now you saw how the product has worked. Let's kind of do the little mini unboxing and setting up together. So the good thing is, and I'll start this off really quickly to say, that I like this. They've got a QR code at the very top of its own box, including an email to kind of say, if you need any form of support, scan this, talk to us. There's an email if you can't scan it as well. I like that. I like that. In a world of a lot of kind of automatic products, we tend to lose some of that human interaction or that human kind of help. I don't know if I'm doing this right. So I like companies that do that. And as I said, earlier on in the video, my experiences with this company has been really good, and you know me generally, I will not speak on products that I don't think are particularly great. So, as I mentioned earlier on, I had to take the main device, which is this, out of the actual packaging because I needed to charge it up. And the other thing, obviously, that I kind of did was take out the cabling. There is a little hook that goes onto the back of the actual device, and that's to make it easier when it comes to hanging it. You know, it's a true plant channel where I don't have a glass vessel, but I do have a plastic Tupperware container. So you would put it onto something like this, and that's why you've got the hook there, because it makes it super, super easy for it to be attached to the water vessel that it pulls water from. So let me just take this off really quickly and put this down. And it does come with relatively straightforward. I've had a quick peek at the manual. It is kind of pretty easy in terms of how you put it together, but as I said, let's do one together, shall we? So that's the manual. Loads of good packaging. This arrived relatively quickly as well for me. So first thing that you're going to get is the watering spikes, which is important because this is what you're going to be shoving into the plant and the soil to make sure that it's getting watered properly. You've also got some zip ties, and I like that they included the zip ties because I've done a few of these now, not just the RainPoint in here, but I've used certain other ones as well in the garden. And it's nice to have that extra bit of security to make sure that this is fully kind of secure on the actual piping. Talking about piping. Ta-da, or tubing more specifically. So, oh, and I like this because you don't know the struggles I have been through with all the other ones that I was trying to put through, because it can be a bit challenging to get the tubing sorted on the, to kind of put it on. Let me show you instead of me just hopping on. It can be a bit challenging at times to make sure that the tubing fits in properly and attaches well. So actually, and I was trying to find like tips online on how to do this and I couldn't find it anywhere, but actually on the packaging itself, please note, I like it. Dunk the end of the tubing in hot water. Dunking the end of the tubing in hot water will help to easily push fitting into the tubing. So if you've ever tried to set some of these things up and you got really frustrated because you couldn't get the tubing into the actual kind of dripper easily enough, collective thank you from everybody in the plant community by telling us that if you just warm this up slightly, it'll be easier to put it in. I know it makes sense, it's plastic, it will loosen it up, but small things make all the difference in the world. So there's two different sets of tubing, and just by looking at them, I can see that there's a slight difference in width or kind of diameter of the tubing, and it does actually say this one. Memo, pay attention. It does say that this is 3 millimeters and this is 4 millimeters, and I would assume, based on what I've seen from the instructions, they go to different elements of the actual device. Now, these are the other important things that you're going to need. So, and this is all going to make sense when I start connecting them. This is what goes into your water. Let me lift this up because it's also got a whole bunch of water in it. This is what it's also got at the bottom of the actual water. So it's got some pebbles in there. I think that's A for weight and B to make sure that nothing kind of gets stuck in the actual filter itself. It has got a fine mesh, so if you ever accidentally, not that I've done this before, accidentally drop some soil into the water, it won't clog up the tubing because it will be caught by that little filter. And you've got essentially a whole host of connectors. So you've got kind of T connectors, and I'm pretty sure I saw one in here somewhere, if I am not mistaken. Maybe I am mistaken, I don't know. There we go. There's also a cross connector there as well. And a couple of stop points and entry points, but that will all make sense when we start attaching it. So let's do that. This is how straightforward it is. I'm just taking a bit longer because I'm showing you what comes in the actual box itself. Okay, and I had a quick glance and I know why there's this difference in tubing size and why there's more of the 4 millimeter one and less of the 3 millimeter one, and it will all make sense. But actually we are starting off with the 4 millimeter one. So let me just undo this really quickly. Okay, so from the 4 millimeter pipe, what you want to do is get a relatively long section, because this is going to be what's going to connect your device to the water that's going to be sucked out of whatever container of water you're going to have. So you want to give it a decent length. I'd probably assume about that much. And let me just cut it really quickly. Okay. And there's a really nice diagram, by the way. I'll briefly show it to you in terms of kind of how, hopefully it will focus, take my face out of it. If not, I can always take a picture and add it. But it gives you a really nice diagram as to how to connect everything, and it's really straightforward and easy to understand. So, one end of this, and you can see at the back of the device there, and again, if it doesn't focus, I will see about adding a picture. There is an in place and an out place. You want to connect this to the in place, because obviously that's what's going to be pulling in the water. So that's the pipe then connected. And then all you need to do at the end of this pipe here is to add the actual element that is going to go into the water itself. So there we go. You can see that there now, and that is what is connected to this. And just for display purposes, that will be there. And then this will be going into the water itself. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm going to get water everywhere. I learned my lesson from the previous video that I did. Then the next section, you want to get a smaller bit of this pipe, and there's a reason for it. So take a smaller section of that pipe, cut it, and this is the only bit that you need to kind of remember is going to be slightly different, because you're going to get an anti-siphon valve. And let me show you what it looks like. It looks like that. So it's slightly different than anything else. It's the only one that's a bit more bulbous, and I want to see if there is kind of any display on here to kind of show the connection. No, but there is one on the kind of element. So it does show you clearly how you need to connect that. So that connects to the section here. You can see what I mean now by struggling. I'm doing this my way like I did it last time, which was a bit dumber, but it can be a bit challenging. That's where that note comes in play, where if it's a bit too difficult and you're finding it like it's a bit of a struggle, just warm it up with some warm water, like it said, and it will soften the pipe up enough to be able to connect it. This then will go, and I don't know whether or not that's going to pick up the direction. You might be able to see there's a flatter section at the top and the bulbousy bit is at the bottom. And that is, I might just look at the instructions to make sure that that is the correct way of doing it. Yes. So that way around is how you would do it. So you would have it on the out. And the reason why is it's an anti-siphon. So what it will do is it will make sure that water doesn't get pulled back into the device, because water's coming from here, it's going into the device, and it's coming out of this element down here to go into the plants, and that will make sense in just a second. So I've taken another little section. It might not seem particularly long, but I'm only going to do this for the video to show you into two different kind of containers, because I'm going to do it as a bit of an example. One is going to be in just straight up kind of houseplanty soil, which is dry. This is where the cycle and soak technology comes in. I'm so excited. And the other one is going to be dry sphagnum moss. Again, note the word dry, because we've all experienced this. But normally you can obviously add a lot more connectors. You can put like the cross connector and connect a lot more plants, and the diagram will kind of show you how to kind of do that. Okay, and I've connected two sections here. You can kind of see, I bring that in, there's a little T-junction there, and actually if you notice the T-junction, that top bit is slightly thinner than what it would be here. This is where the 3mm pipe comes into play. And I've left this open. This is supposed to have an end cap, but I did read the instructions where it says you need to let it run once, so it gets rid of all the air the first time around. And then you put a little end cap so that it stops water from flowing at the end. Now I've got my two little watering spikes, and this is where that 3mm pipe is going to come in handy, because it's the size that it needs to be to kind of make sure that it's watering. And actually this would probably make all the difference in the world, because sometimes on other devices you find like the pressure drops a bit, depending if you go towards the kind of end plants. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm trying to think here, you can water up to 20 plants. That is actually quite a large number, to be fair. So a bit of the 3mm pipe to make sure that we connect it to the little spikes. And then we should be able to connect this and let it run one time. So I've taken the 3mm pipe, I'm connecting it to its own little section, which is a little branching section that's going to happen there. One there and another one here. I've left way too much space for this, just for this display purposes. But that's the good thing with anything like piping. You can decide how short or long you want it, basically. So connect the little irrigation dripper. And you can see as well, this might be the section that they're saying, you know what, if it's struggling a bit, warm it up. But so far, I've not had to. I've done enough of these over the last few years that I can kind of do them a bit easier these days. Okay, and they are both in. Now, remember the section the section that doesn't suction back because of the siphon, that's where you're going to connect this pipe to now. So if I do that really quickly, There you go. And that is all connected up now. Yeah? And what I might do now is do a little bit of a dry run. I'll pop the water section into the actual water. You can kind of see it there at the bottom. And then this would go on the top. And I'll just do a bit of a dry run now because I want the water to come out the end so I can put the end cap on. And that is all connected now. I've connected the little stopper. I've let it run. It was fine. Connected it, even did a bit of a trial run, and everything is working perfectly. So that is a bit of your setup guide. So that was everything. You saw the product in action. You saw the setup as well. Relatively straightforward to put this together. It didn't really take me very long at all. Probably took me a tiny bit longer because I'm trying to film at the same time as setting it up. So your average person won't be filming this. You could. I don't judge. But yeah, very, very cool product. And it does exactly what I thought it was going to do. And that's why I jumped at the opportunity as soon as they kind of said, oh, we've got some new technology, have a look. And I looked at the cycle and soak and I'm just like, oh, this is what's been missing from a lot of the kind of automatic waterers out there, which, as I said, I've tried a few. But yes, let me know what you think down below. Is this something that you'd want to try, have tried? We're looking for something that would do something like this, like a bit more of a staggered watering system, because if I'm not mistaken, this is also what's used for a lot of the commercial growers when they're doing their automatic watering. They don't just do like 5 minutes of watering. They'll do a minute of watering, and delay, another minute of watering, delay, another minute watering, and so on and so forth. And it means that everything is watered evenly. It saves on water, like we said, but it also means that everything is getting watered properly rather than everything kind of sloughing off because the soil media might be too dry. But yes, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.